Welcome everybody. It's 4 o'clock, it's Thursday, and delighted that you can join us again for episode 5 of our MCC live stream series. Today we're going to send some flowers, and in doing that, we're going to take a real good look at the Keynote app. But before we do that, let's just introduce ourselves. On the main screen, we have Mr. David Kirtland, an Apple professional learning specialist and a good friend. And myself, I'm Richard Child. I'm the education manager for MCC. We are an Apple authorized education specialist. And as I said, today we're going to use the Keynote app to send some flowers. Now, this activity is from some ideas that were published by Apple about 6 or 8 weeks ago to coincide with the whole worldwide lockdown thing. And it's 30 creative activities for kids. And this one is straight out of that card. We'll send you a link to it. They're just short, quick activities that sort of augment what's in the main Everyone Can Create content, which we will point you towards after David has done his thing with these virtual flowers. So let's take a good look at Keynote. I've got my iPad ready to follow your every move. So take it away, David, please do.
Great, thank you, Richard. Yeah, these 30 ideas are just really kind of headline topics that we can kind of delve into and explore a little bit more and expand ourselves and just play around with some of the techniques and skills that we kind of explore when we're using the Everyone Can Create resources. So it's a good topic, this one, send flowers, and it gives us some really nice options. So let me just jump out of that presentation. So I'm still in Keynote. And we did look at Keynote a couple of weeks ago when we were exploring the photo collages and working with the different frames, and we touched on some of the features around animation there, but this is a great opportunity to explore these in much more detail and really just have a look at it, because we kind of think of Keynote as a presentation tool, which it is, and we use it a lot for presentations, as we just have there. But when I'm in a classroom with the children, this is one of the key tools we use for animation, because it's so great at doing things and so easy and so quick. So I'm going to press plus and create a brand new presentation like we always do with any of these apps. And Keynote gives us, in the latest version here, dozens and dozens of these templates that we can choose to work through here. I'm going to stick for now just for a basic white one, just to make it simple and easy for you to see exactly what we're doing here, but you can use any of these colored templates here. So I'm going to go for that first option there, that recent one there, the white one. And it's just a plain standard presentation, and we can see our first slide there. We've got our first slide down the left hand side where we can add some more as we work through our animation, but we've got our basic slide canvas there, and I have 2 text boxes on the screen. It tells me there double tap to edit. If I double tap these, it gives me the option to edit that text in there. I don't want to do that. I'm just going to single tap these, which selects them, but it also gives us that little black menu box there, and we'll come back to that. We'll use that quite a lot today, but the one we're interested in at the moment is delete. And I just want to get rid of these. So I have got a starting completely blank frame for us to work with. Now, when we looked at Keynote last time, we explored the buttons up along the top, and the 2 useful ones we have is the plus, that we always have to add something new, and the paintbrush lets us play around with the options for whatever we've added in there. And previously we were on this slide here where we had the options to import videos and photos and various other things. I'm going to jump across to the left slightly to the shapes. And the shapes in Keynote are really quite amazing. The heritage comes from the old days of clip art, but these are so much more flexible. And there's dozens of these. It's amazing what's actually in here. And they're all divided by category, and we can edit these and we'll pull them apart and we'll have a look at them in more detail. There's so many. We have that little search menu at the side of it because it's always worth just having a look for it. And usually what we're looking for, there's something in there appropriately. So I'm going to just press that magnifying glass, and we are going to send flowers today. So let's have a quick look. So pull up flowers, and there's our first one. We've got 5 to choose from. I think I'm going to go for that last option. So we're going to use these shapes, and we're going to combine those with some of the animation tools to create a little animated greeting card. We're going to send it as an animated GIF, so that we could send that to family in these kind of strange lockdown times. We might be missing birthdays and missing relatives, but we could still send them little messages with our very own unique animations. So I've just pulled in that first shape there. It's a little icon of some flowers. I can resize this. I can twist them around with 2 fingers. I can move them about as with any image. But while it's selected, I'm going to tap the paintbrush. And we have our 3 tabs in the paintbrush option. We have style, We have text, because don't forget, these are similar to any other object like a text box where we could add text across the middle of these if we wanted. We're not going to. And I have the arrange tab at the end as we use for working with any kind of object. So I'm going to select the style tab at the moment. And this lets me recolor these. So I could say, well, I want to send yellow flowers or perhaps red flowers. I'm going to just tap the fill button. And instead of having our preset colors, we've got lots to choose from. We've got some gradients in there as well. We've got a few different textures. I could go across to color, where I have my whole selection of colors. I even have my ink dropper in there if I want to match colors to something else on the screen. But I'm going to go for gradient. And I have a starting color and an end color. And I think I'm going to set my starting color to, let's go for red for this one. And I'll have my end color, as it's a plant, let's go for something green for the stems. And we get kind of that gradient color behind whatever shape we've got. It kind of works well for the flowers here. We can flip the colors. We also can adjust the angle if we want to move things around and have it shaded slightly differently. But that's looking okay for me. I think I'm okay with that one now. And I think to start with, I'm going to select this and I'm just going to put it over here and start designing what my animated greeting card might look like. I'll just put that in there in that bottom corner for the moment. And let's carry on. Let's build a few more things here. Maybe make that a shade bigger, actually. I can add some different shapes in here. I'm going to tap it, single tap it back to this menu, and I'm just going to copy, tap on my white background and paste it. So I've got a second flower in here. And with this one, if I now press the paintbrush, let's have a look at our fill options. We've looked at the colors and the gradient. The final one there is an image fill. So I can now put any photograph on the back of one of these shapes. Whichever shape I've got, I can fill it with a photograph, which can be really quite useful. And if I look at my photo library, let's have a look what's on here. There's all the recent photos we've used for the last few sessions. But just before we stopped going into schools, I was doing a little space topic with the school, and I've still got some images on here. So I think actually that one works quite nicely, just to give these flowers a little bit of a sparkly background feel. I have the options here to stretch the background. Actually, if I tile it, I think I get a nicer view on that one there, but we can adjust those. We can play around with those to suit whatever we're doing. So I think we'll have these flowers somewhere in the middle. We'll make this one a bit bigger because it's kind of like a sparkly special one in the middle, isn't it there? So we're starting to get the design of this now. Let's paste it again. I'm going to tap, because I've still got that first flower copied. I'm just going to paste it in one more time. One of the things we can do when I press the paintbrush here, if I go to arrange, this is where we normally set what's on top of each other. So we've got objects on top of one or a bit further to the background, so we can set the layering right. We can flip things around and we can turn them around and do different things. But at the bottom there is a really nice one called break apart. And if you look at the first flowers here, you can see while some of the objects are actually touched and joined, there's three distinctly separate parts to this object here. I've got three separate flowers. So if I break that apart, you can see now that one I've just pasted in there is into three separate objects. So I can now completely just pull that into three completely separate objects. And let's make this one a bit taller. Put that one up there in the middle. Maybe shrink this one down. Move this one across a little bit. I think we'll have this one a slightly different color. Let's tap it and press the paintbrush. Go back to our style. Should we make this one a yellow flower? So I'll just change that top color. And we'll put this one in here. Make that quite a tall one as well. Change the color. Let's go for a bluish flower for that one. And then we've got one more down here. Let's put a little one down on this side for the moment. And again, should we go for pink, something like that? So we've got completely different flower designs now by just breaking apart that single object. And all these are really quite nice to be able to split things up like this. It gives it a lot of flexibility to be able to treat these as separate items. Let's just complete our scene a little bit more. So let's add another shape in. I'm just going to search here and see what we find if we put grass. There we go. We've got some grass there. We probably don't need a grasshopper, but the content that's in here is amazing what there actually is. So let's put some grass in. And I'm going to put this down in the bottom corner. I'll make it a bit bigger. It doesn't matter if I go slightly over the edge here. When we export this as an animated GIF, it will crop it, so it'll be quite nice there. Grass isn't very often blue, so let's recolor that. Press the paintbrush, and I think we'll actually go for a little gradient again. And we'll have a dark green at the bottom and a lighter green at the top. It just gives it that nice bit of shading, doesn't it? And that's okay, that's on top. I will copy that one again. copy, and let's just paste a few of these along the bottom and just line them up so that we've got a nice little bottom edge to our card. We'll fill the bottom with it, I think. I could double tap, I could hold one and tap the others and select a few of these in one go. We'll have a look at that in a moment, actually. But for the moment, I'll just paste a few of these in. And we'll just fill up that last little empty space. There we go. That'll do. And it just kind of gives a bit of a finish to that layout there, our design of our card. Let's go back. I've got a bit of space on the right-hand side. I'm going to go back to my shapes and I'll do that flower search again. And I think I'm going to use that third one now, and we'll do something a bit more interesting with this one. So on this one, there it is. I'll make that bigger. Now, this one won't break apart because it is all just one object there, but that's okay. We can do what we like with that. Should we color it, make it look more like a flower? And back to our gradient. I think we'll go with pale pink at the top and a deeper red at the bottom. So we can see the shading on there. So we've got that quite nicely. Now, of course, this at the moment is just kind of like a little floating flower, and that's not quite so useful. So we need to draw our own stem in here. So we can do that with some of the other shapes. So if I go back and clear my search there, this takes me to the first basic category of shapes, which gives me my squares and my circles and the kind of things I might expect there. I've also got my line here, and that third one along is a curved line, which I'll use that one. So there it is, and I'll just move it over to this side for the moment. Let me just move the ends, and we'll put it over here just so you can see how we're working with it. Let's just line up there. Just because while I select the paintbrush over here, the menu might drop over it. So under style, let's go green. Let's make it a bit thicker so we've got a nice stem there. In fact, actually, I think I'm going to darken up that stem, go for a darker green. So I've got that there quite nicely. So we could put this over to this side. I think I'll put this over there. Notice how when I touch one of the objects, I can link it to it so it becomes joined to it. And I don't want to link it to the grass there. So I'll just pull it past and put it down to the ground there. Okay, great. So that's now linked to that object there. I think we could have a look and see if we can find a leaf. Maybe should we decorate our flower with the addition of a leaf there? I think we'll use this one. There's one. Nice big leaf. Let's give it a color. Let's make it, should we make it that same dark green? And I'm going to just use 2 fingers now just to twist it round. Make it a bit smaller now so we can fit it on. And I think we'll stick that over to our stem over there. Let's move this flower across a little bit. So we've now got 3 separate objects. I could tap the leaf and hold it with my finger while I tap the other elements. And if I group those now with that menu there, they become one object that I can move around as I wish there. I just want to ungroup those for the moment. I'm just going to tap it again and ungroup. I might actually group the stem just so I know that's staying together, but it leaves the flower on its own. It's popped behind the stem at the moment, so I can just go back to that paintbrush and just pull it to the front so that I can see that there. In fact, my stem's quite tall there. Let's shrink it down a little bit so I don't see it in the middle. There we go. So that's looking okay. All that means is that the stem and the leaf will now act as one object, so I can move those together, but it means that the flower is separate, so we can do something different with that, and we can explore some of the animation options. Now it's independent. So we've got our basic scene. I think that's looking okay. So let's tap on that flower head there on this side here. And some of the options we have along here, we've seen these, but the last one is animate. And this gives us loads of options. And this is where the interesting things start to happen in Keynote. So now I've jumped into the animation of an object, and I've got an option along the bottom now with an add build, which is how things might appear. At the end, I've got a build out, which is how things might disappear. And in the middle is add an action, which is if they're already there, how do we animate them there? What do they do while they're there? And that's the one I want to use at the moment. So I'm going to tap add action. And I get a few options along here, from pulse to bounce to flip, the kind of things we might expect in a presentation. And there's some really good ones. I'm going to select rotate. And as I select it, it gives us a bit of a hint there on the screen what's going to happen. So I'll just tap on the background, and I'm now into the little option that shows me the animation options that are relating to that object. And I've got rotate on there. You'll notice there's a plus at the end of that menu bar there, which means I can add multiple animation options to the same object. So I could have rotate and resize at the same time for example. I'm going to stick with rotate, but if I tap it, I now get to see all the options for how it actually rotates. And at the moment, it's rotating for a duration of 1 second. I'm going to extend that to about 5 seconds. And it's only turning 45 degrees, so a quarter of a turn at the moment. So let me just increase that. I think we'll have it going clockwise and we'll spin once. Okay. I also have an acceleration option on most of these animations. So instead of just starting and stopping, it kind of slides into the start and the stop. You get that ease in and ease out effect. It just makes it look a bit more natural. Let's press play. Let's just check it and we'll see how it's going to spin. That's looking okay. I'm happy with that. So that's fine. Let's leave that there. Let's press done. Let's add another option. Let's make this card. Let's add another object. So let's put a heart in there. So we're making a card. We'll send it to someone in the family. There's my heart. I'll put it over there. Again, we'll change the color. Let's use our style and make it red. So tap it. Let's bring up this menu. Let's animate it. I'll add an action as before. And one of the relatively new animation options is the create path. And this is really useful. And create path just lets me draw a route of how I might want this to move around the slide. So I'm just going to, with my finger, drag that heart and say, oh, we'll kind of do a wavy movement up to about there. So the heart will just follow that path. And it kind of smooths it out and makes it look a bit more natural. But that's looking good. And again, I can tap on there to say, well, let's do it over, we'll make it last the same length of time as that flower that's spinning round. We'll leave the acceleration as it is, so it eases in and eases out. When do I want it to start? This is important now so that we synchronize events. So at the moment, because we've still got that heritage of it being a presentation, as I tap the slides, that's when it will trigger each of the animations. But I want it to go at the same time as that flower. So as the flower rotates, that heart will follow that kind of wavy line. I don't want any delays or anything. I just want it to follow that movement. And that's looking pretty good. So we'll leave that there. That's looking great. Okay, good. So let me press done. And we've got the basics of what our animated greeting card could look like, our flowers that we're going to send. So we know now that we can select any of these objects, we can pull them apart, we can recolor them, we can animate them separately, we can do all sorts of things to these. What we can also do now is, instead of selecting individual objects to animate, select the entire slide. And this is where it gets really exciting with Keynote, because you can do so much with it. So I'm going to tap the slide on the left-hand side. And instead of selecting an animation option, I now have the option to add a transition. And there we go. We're in a transition mode now. It says at the bottom, add transition. And I've got loads of these. And these are the kind of things we would expect normally when we're creating presentations. I can flip it. I can do the confetti. I can do the dissolves, all the things that we would expect. But where it gets interesting is that first one there that says magic move. And this is where we can use it in a classroom nicely. So let me tap magic move. And it says, hang on a second. The first thing we need to do when we use magic move is duplicate the slide. And Keynote is telling me this. So let me duplicate it. And effectively, what I've got now on my left-hand side are two slides. My first one is my starting point of an animation. My second one is the end point. So my first one, all the objects on there, if I select it there, the starting position of all those objects. When I select the second one, if I move these and reorganize them, this is where they will move to, and they'll be nicely kind of sliding between those two positions. So let me just press done. We've created it here. And on my second slide, I'm going to say, actually, we've got on our first slide that heart kind of moves across, but on my second slide, I want the heart to disappear. So I'm just going to completely delete it. It's gone. I might also say, in fact, actually, I think we'll do it the other way around. This sparkly flower, I'm going to start with it on my first slide and make it little. I'll put it in the middle there. So that by the time it gets to the second slide, it's done the animation, it will kind of grow. Let's add some text so that this also appears. So let me press plus. And this is always a question with Keynote. How do I add a text box? Because it's a little bit hidden until you know. So it's in my shapes. So it's back on my basic selection of shapes, all these here. And that first one there is a text box. And there it is. I'm just going to put a text box there and make it nice and big. I'll double tap it and let's add in, we'll send this card. It's Grandma's birthday. So let's send her a birthday card as an animated gift. Happy birthday, Grandma. Okay, that's fine. Let's select that text I'm going to go to my paintbrush and let's just set an appropriate size. I'm going to say it's a title. I think we'll make it red. And I think we might actually change the font. Let's go down. There's a nice one down here. Let's go to phosphate. There we go. That's looking okay. Let's just extend that. That's looking good. So that will now appear on that second slide. I could also, once it's appeared, add an animation to that object as well. So if I tap on there again, we'll animate that. I'll add an action to it. And I think I'll use scale this time. So it will just grow slightly or shrink slightly, depending on how I set the scale. And scaling to 150% is quite big. I'm just going to do it subtly, 110, 112. I don't want it to go off the side of the screen. So somewhere around there, and we'll do that over a few seconds so it's nice and slow. We'll do it over 4 seconds. So it will grow subtly like that once it's appeared. That's looking good. I'm actually touching the flower there. Maybe it's just a little bit too much, but that's okay. We'll stick with that for now. Done. And in fact, actually, I think I'll do one more thing to this. So on my background, if I press the paintbrush while not in selected, I get to edit my master slide. So just tap the background and I'm going to change the color. So I could select a color. Let's go for a gradient. So I've got this. So the card will turn blue. I'll make it a little bit lighter. That's quite dark blue at the top. But again, we can set our colors. So let's have a look. I'll select my first slide there. Let's press play so we can see what our animated greeting card is going to look like at this stage. So there we are. We've got our heart moving. We've got the flower spinning. We've got a flower growing there and a happy birthday grandma appearing and the card changing. So it's kind of working. It's looking pretty good. So we're nearly there, really. I think we might actually add one more slide, one more animation to our greeting card, because we've done that magic move between 2 slides. That's a short animation. If we were doing a process where we were getting children to use this approach for explaining a topic, we could keep this animation going. We just keep adding more and more of these transitions in. So I'm going to tap that second slide on the left-hand side. I'll add another transition, another magic move, just as we've already done there. It will say, oh, we need to duplicate that one. So there's my third one. And on my last one, actually, I'm going to just delete all these flowers so they disappear. So we've got almost like the back of a card, really, isn't it? I'll delete that text as well. And we'll add one more bit of text so it does appear. So let's add another text box and put some text in there. And we'll say, from all the family. There we go. And let's just press the paintbrush. And we'll set it as a title again. Let's keep it red, because I think it kind of worked with the red, didn't it? So put that there. And I think I'll use the same font, just keep it consistent, which was phosphate. There we are. Make it a bit bigger, stick it in the middle. So we've now got all the flowers disappearing, and this will appear. We'll do one more thing just to finish it off, which we touched on at the last Keynote session. So I'm going to go back now and add, instead of adding a shape, I'll add a photograph. And I have an album on here of some flowers. So we'll put one of those in just to finish off a photograph of one. So I'm going to put this orange flower in, I think. And just a reminder, really, that I've got this flower on here on this black background. We briefly looked last time. If I press the paintbrush, I have instant alpha. Instant alpha just lets me remove a background. So I can now tap that black area and just select it to delete it. And it just makes it transparent. So I've now got a flower that I can move around and put over the top of objects, and it's just cut it out very quickly and easily. And it's just like any other object, those shapes, just with photographs, I can animate these as well in exactly the same way. So I'll tap that flower now, that photograph. I'll animate that one. We'll add an action and we'll rotate that one as well. Okay, but we could use any of these different options. So let's just check the speed. Let's just duration. Let's spin it over 5 seconds like we did before. We'll spin it all the way around. We'll go clockwise and turn once. And that's good. And in fact, while we're here, let's do the same with that. So this writing kind of grows just so we notice it. It was scale. So we'll do that over 5 seconds. We'll scale, not quite 150, but we'll make it quite large. And I'll have that so it happens at the same time as the flower. Done. So let's just check and see what our animation is looking like. Okay, so that's coming together now, and we can put slide 4, 5, 6, and 7 if that's what we want to do. That's okay, that's fine. So let's leave it at that, but it's still a Keynote presentation at the moment, so we need to press that More button, which is those 3 dots in the corner, and we need to export this. And the export options are quite nice here. The 2 that I'm really interested in are exporting as a movie. So this will become a video-based file. It would sit in my photo library. And then, of course, this could go into something like an iMovie project or a Clips project and become maybe the opening title of a documentary that we could be making. So, or it could be describing a process and we had a voiceover in iMovie and it becomes one of those cutscenes. I don't want to do that. I want to send this to whoever I'm making the card for. So I'm going to send this as an animated GIF. And an animated GIF just means that it loops over and over again and it's relatively small and we can send it via iMessage or text message or put it on social media or all sorts of things there. So I'm just going to select the animated GIF option there and it brings up this menu. We can select the size. I'm going to keep it as XL, keep it a large file here. But remember, GIFs are small files overall and they are limited in color range as well. But there is one thing we need to watch out for here, and that's that slide range, because a GIF could be a still image, but we want it as an animated GIF. So I just need to tap slide range, which by default is slide 1 to 1, which is fine for a still image, but I want this to be animated, so I just need to select slide 1 to 3, and then I can export that. And that just creates our little animated GIF. And once we've done that, it will give us our share options. And I can add that straight to a text message, or I can save my image to the photo library so that I can then add it to social media or do whatever I like with it there. Stick it on an email, doesn't matter, it's just a file. Let's just check in my photo library, back to my photos. And there's my last one there. So down in the bottom corner is my animated GIF. And there we are, that we can send and do different things to. And that really is just a bit of an introduction to the type of things we can use Keynote for and working with animations. And it really is quite amazing.
It is amazing. Check that out. Animated GIFs on the iPad. So
there you go.
That's a keeper. That is an absolute keeper. So Keynote is my absolute favorite of all of Apple's apps. And it's just so versatile. And I think hopefully, you know, what we've shown you this afternoon really briefly is just the flexibility you have. I mean, just some of those adjustments to those animations, you can do some really precise stuff. And, you know, I saw the flower turning and I started thinking about physics and cogs and moments and movements. So, wow, that has hopefully given everybody some brilliant ideas about how this Swiss Army knife of an app, the Keynote app, just keeps getting better and better, doesn't it? I mean, they just add to it every year, and it's just incredible. So, some resources to point you towards, and we're going to finish on time today, which is great. So the first one to point you towards is the Apple Teacher Program. If you're not on the program already, then get signed up. It's free. It'll only cost you a little bit of time, and you can start exploring some of the great resources for classrooms. Work through the modules. You'll get an Apple Teacher badge that you can print out, pop on your classroom wall or your staff room wall, or onto your email signature or your social media avatar. So go have a look at that. The lower QR code there is the sign up page. Sign up with your Apple ID or your iTunes account and get yourself on there. The second big set of resources to point you towards is the Everyone Can Create program, a whole series of books around drawing, photography, music, and the one we've not done yet, music, coming in 2 weeks' time. So go take a look at that and remix Justin Timberlake's track to your heart's content. It's amazing. QR code there will take you to the overview page on Apple's website. And if you are a creative teacher, and I'm sure some of you are, sure all of you are actually, then you need the best tools for the job. So why not treat yourself to a MacBook Pro as the heart of your creative studio? That's the very latest model, only released 3 weeks ago or so. So lots more storage than the prior version, and very powerful. We're bundling that with the Samsung Podcast Kit, which is a great quality microphone, and some earphones if you're in a noisy environment, and a nice carry case as well. And also the green screen background, the all-important green screen for your iMovie magic. Transform you or your pupils or your colleagues absolutely anywhere via the green screen tools you've got in iMovie. So that is all available on a MCC MyLearn subscription for just under £60 a month. It is bang on 4:30. So thanks for joining us. We'll be back next week. And next week we're back on drawing, aren't we?
We are. We're looking at drawing again. So we're going to dig into that and look at just some ideas really that we can do with it. Because drawing is that one that, certainly for me, people tend to be a little bit more scared of. But it's just giving us some approaches and techniques of how we can get children to start experimenting. And
are we going to do any tracing?
We will.
I need to bring my tracing paper.
Well, we'll kind of do that on the iPad.
Brilliant. All right.
Just
see you next week.
We do just have one question about accessing these afterwards. So
okay, well spotted. Right, yes, so VJ, yes, we are archiving all of these series on YouTube. So we will send a link to everybody with the YouTube channel, the MCC YouTube channel, where you can watch this one and all our previous ones, and we'll just be adding to that library as the weeks go by. We've had some great feedback from teachers saying that it's a great format, and you can kind of pause it as you're following the steps. So yes, definitely we'll send you the link to that. And that's it from us. Thank you so much for joining us. Brilliant. See you next week.
Richard.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.